You are going to see me piece together a way to try to teach myself something rapidly on the fly that, like I've always said, and I've reverse engineered the reasons why. And we really do have to get there physical fitness wise. And like I said, I come to SDSU because cold in the morning, get on that train on the weekend. And today's Saturday, tomorrow's Sunday, and it's days when, as expensive as it is to buy, at Jack in the Box here, a beverage to use the Wi-Fi because, you got to think economically. Should I just pay Mint Mobile for because 10 days are going to go by, but when it's Saturday and Sunday, then that's why you can't get the library downtown, and they've got pretty decent speed there at Central Library. I digress. So it's just 2 days. We'll use the Wi-Fi. But I saw a sign, and the sign said, here in Jack in the Box, open auditions. And there was this girl, who was just graduating from SDSU here with a degree in dance, and she did all this video editing, and she's on the computer, and she's talking all elevated and bubbly to someone interviewing her about how she's moving to somewhere a little east of LA, actually a little south of LA, before Orange County, north of the borderline. And she's applying for a job, all this stuff, and video editing, and her specialty is. So, the way she did it, you got to give it to her. And she goes, and so that it engages the person on the other side. I guarantee she can put on a lot of acts. I can't say that she's not doing a good job of it. She just knows the person on the other side. She knows enough about that person where it keeps it going. It's like the person on the other side wants a character in front of the webcam that can keep it going that way. You just know what it is. If she could just shrink it, because of course you're college educated, you've got a vocabulary. If it was another kind of personality, I'm sure she'd adjust properly and say, I'm a very versatile video editor that knows these platforms and has experience with these kinds of dance groups that lend themselves to certain kinds of effects in the video editing platforms. I'm versatile. No, she explains, takes paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs. But there's this sign saying open auditions for work at Jack in the Box every Tuesday between these hours, and you're looking at it. And we were talking about how in California, the one here, the FAST Recovery Act, that was the first major attempt, 2023, finally, with a political compromise with AB 1228, rather than fight the referendum at the ballot box. Labor organizations in the restaurant industry negotiates a compromise with AB 1228, signed September 28, 2023, as all of this stuff was happening, including my incarceration, and that prevented me from being up in Sacramento for, of all things, not this, but to argue against them saying we're taking all the open data down in counties that had it. In California, San Diego, by the way, wasn't. It was always that way in San Diego. You had to go to the assessor's office. In all fairness, you didn't have where you go through ESRI's GIS mapping system. So it's the tax billing address, the name of the owner of the assessor's parcel, not that easily to hack. In any event, so finally, April 1, 2024, not April Fool's Day. That's a lot of money, $20 an hour for people in fast food. I can't quantify. And so one of the things that was a big challenge, so one of the things, if you look at my early posts on the Substack page about breaking into owning real estate and controlling deals to get the money I need to just, rich family office to find rich family office. If they got a couple of rental properties, well, I'll marry your daughter, I'll come in and I can start spending your money because that's the money I meant for, because I cultivated an identity for that social class. Okay, take that off the table for now, because you got to do what you got to do to get through until you're invited in for that. No, we will be, but until then, this is what you got to do. So the more immediate problem isn't the multiplication table. The more immediate problem isn't, because here's an important thing, is that's why I was talking earlier, and I actually haven't put this video up yet. I showed a video of me filling up at San Diego State University this water pail, I guess you'd call it, that I carry around. Now, I don't know if this is a gallon. It's definitely not a gallon. It's not a gallon, but whatever it is, if I had this beautiful, highly intelligent graduate student, blonde hair, that was, I don't know, like kind of like a pre-medicine type of field. I don't know, or medical doctor student that had a lot of biochemistry. I would say, how much is this compared to a gallon? And you start to think about it. That's why you learn these things, because people that are in the science fields have all of these different metrics and measurements overlaid over each other, like how many gallons are in a quart or how many quarts are in a gallon. That's just, I can't. But that's because things like, they're practical. These are practical things. And so even if you end up taking that knowledge to be like a phlebotomist or something, you kind of should know why you got to have this much blood in the vial, because that's how much you need. How much piss do we need? How much blood do we need? How much of whatever substance you need to test for the virility. But like, she would know, like there's a metric system overlaid with the imperial, and she would know why and all the history of it. So she'd know. All these questions, if I had, I don't want to just pull out my phone and ask AI. I want beautiful, intelligent people to pick the brains up. So he shouldn't do that. So pick his brain, stick an ice pick in his eye socket with the chemical lobotomy medication, so he's not making an argument to pick people's brains like that. And we have to give him this, genius score with an IQ of 150 or higher to pick her brain. Anyway, so I can't quantify. So let's take multiplication table off the table. This is about money. And we have this system. Well, I say I can't quantify, that's to everything. I can't count money. And pesos is something, and euros are something. But when you are a cashier, and that's a problem, that's why I just know custodian, janitorial, that stuff I can do. Give me a bottle of, it'd be great if I knew how to read the OSHA mandated, precautionary. They got to put a binder in there that says what their chemicals are, and really understand what it is about the chemical. There's always like 4 chemicals or something like that, and one of them is whatever they give us to use. Use a microfiber cloth, use a cloth that's not a microfiber cloth, it's a quality that the bosses want. I'll go and do it. It'd be great to know enough about chemistry, let's say, to know why. Is the reason why that one is the chemical to put on the biohazard, some pisses, is the reason because it's got a little less ammonia in it than piss? Is why it cleans the biohazard up? I don't know. It could be a lot of reasons why that's the one that's for the biohazardous materials that you put on. It's called disinfectant. What's it called? And whatever. So, okay. But that's the one they tell you to put on, and that's what you put on. Now, the problem with anything outside of that field is you're going to touch money. And the computer now tells you, give them this much change. Okay, the person gave you 20, the person gave you $27, the person gave you $25, the person gave you, $7, and the thing was, say, $6.21. And so I said, take the multiplication tables off the table. But as it turns out, you've got a quantity. That number is 100. So, 100 cents, $100, that's what my brain can't do. So do I look at a circle? This is a portion of a pie chart. Do I look at it? Then you have to divide that pie chart into 100 pieces. So I think this visualization becomes impossible. And, that's a challenge that our picture is on a much higher level than just, I'm not going to be able to give the person back the right amount of cents. What I say? $7.21. The person gave me $8. Did I say $6.21? I think it said 21.22. Well, that'd be 8 cents and then 20. See that right there, but the head can't do it fast enough. But the computer tells you how much is a good thing. So nowadays, whether you work at McDonald's or Jack in the Box or Taco Bell, the computer is going to tell you. So don't overcomplicate things. I'd like to be a genius and say I'm going to learn to be a cashier working with one of these old style gray, those old cash boxes, gray cash box. You got all the denominations of pennies, quarters, dimes, nickels, nickel and dime, everybody, and a bunch of different denominations of paper money, but this is United States dollar. And it's an interesting thing to note. Why do we have these denominations we have? They talked about retiring the penny. Walmart decided to retire the penny. They talked about having to put me on the $500 bill because I have so much financing, I have so many skyscrapers that the inflation it caused to generate that wealth made everything more expensive for everybody else, including their soda at Jack in the Box, right? So because of that, because I did that, thinks really that's why they have to retire the penny. But this goes to when they started this system. Maybe it should be, instead of a nickel, it should be a 7 cent. Instead of a penny, it should be a 2 cent coin, since we had to retire the penny because 2 cents is the only thing to work with, since things have more than doubled, significantly more than doubled. So this is all kind of history of inflation. But okay, so take that off the table. Let's not overcomplicate things. What are we going to do? Is you're going to look at me trying to figure this stuff out. Because, okay, the computer's going to tell you how much change to give the person back. And I have to start rapid. And one thing to think about is, what is the average fast food transaction? Delete this video. It's just something I'm not going to be able to do right now. We have to move on to something more valuable, time-wise. Let's put it this way. I wanted to talk about that I can use, or rather I can sell point-of-sale systems, but can't use it. I did work for a company, and I did upsell a lot of people in Hawaii to point-of-sale systems. This was before Stripe came out, and so things are done differently now. Everything's corporate. They decide what to use, and they send it out, and they install point-of-sale systems. It's not a franchise owner. They take care of it. So it's a different world. We call it a legacy thing, but there are still places to do it, and yet it's not what it used to be. So I can sell point-of-sale systems, but I can't use it. Not exactly. I could. And so the simulation, the reason I'm still going to put this video out, even though we couldn't finish running these simulations on ChatGPT, I was going to say, look, I'll never forget when my mother took me on a bus early. There was one of these, they still have it, where I asked her, why do they have, they would show what, and back then it wasn't like $3 or whatever, it was like $1.50 or something, your typical bus fare. Why do they show how many quarters you need, how many nickels you need, and dollar bills you need? And she said, that's for ignorant people. And okay, great, but I just knew though that, as I watched movies like Forrest Gump and all of that I was one of these ignorant people. It would give eventually they had a machine that automatically dispense change, and then at a certain point we all had these tap cards, RFID, so you just pay for monthly bus passes on the card. But I'm one of these ignorant people, and they still have that. So we're in places where you pay cash. It shows like it's just a sadness to it. That's why that's why when I was medicated, I got sucked into disability studies and disability culture to make these arguments. I would never forget that tragic scene of seeing that. I'm like, wow, who are these ignorant people? And what, and I would see people walking around that you could tell were these people, and it just felt so bad for them that that's the person that has to count, that has to pay for his bus fare by looking at a picture of it, and yet that's what should be happening in your head, right? And so I would like for society to be a place where everybody doesn't have to look at when they have to get on the bus for some reason, where they're so cognitive, where no one's cognitively disabled to the extent that they have to see, here's how many quarters, here's how many nickels or dimes, or how many dollar bills you got to put in there. And I think I'm someone that doesn't really need to rely on that particular crutch. It's just, we need practice. And it was Wayne Cordeiro. I heard this in his church in Honolulu. And he's now up in Oregon running basically the same deal, something called New Hope West. But for a long time, he was a very big name. And in fact, he's making a kind of reappearance in pop culture in Hawaii, because I was watching Yunji, the Nies, as the leaders, the journey for Hawaii News Now, the great television station over there. And one of the people that she'd profiled talked about seeing or having something that was very kind of a guiding light to him. It was out of his book, Dream Releasers. And he's also the author of Doing Church as a Team, so he left behind an incredible legacy there. You still have it in the bookstore at his location on Sand Island. And it was this incredible story about the collapse of the Farrington Auditorium. And so for the longest time, he was coming into Kalihi. He wasn't even using his brick and mortar sanctuary on Sand Island access road there, because he was bringing, and there was just this kind of, even though a lot of churches at the time, and like today, even though it's schools, I mean outside of school, they can use the school all across the country, in Hawaii too, but there was this, the way it was sold for him was that they had to let him bring church into the school, and everybody would congregate there at Farrington High School in Kalihi. And it was an incredible time. And so what he said, to cut to the chase, was that in order, so these, I don't know if it's FBI or it's, I think it's Secret Service that's actually in charge of this, but these people that study counterfeit, to identify counterfeit money, they actually go into a vault where they actually print the money. I think it's in the Treasury, and they study it, and they touch it, and they identify every little contour of the ink through jewelers, the magnifying glass, and they don't study the fake thing; they study the real thing, and that applies to a lot of things. But we're talking about the money here. But I'm putting this out because if someone has a cash box, I don't know if they sell crafts at a bazaar or if they go to a swap meet or something like that, and they could bring me a cash box and sit across from me, and maybe there could be like a digital screen and they punch something in. That's overcomplicated. Just tell me, count out this amount, because it turns out it goes in two directions. So from what we can identify about point of sale systems, and if we can learn as much as we can about the particular one I would be using, great. There's a lot of things you got to do in a point of sale system. But for now, let's just focus on the money, which is, it goes in two directions. So I was just talking about the other direction, outbound, where the computer will tell you how much change to give a person. But there's also, well, how does it know how much change to give a person without what the person gave you? So you actually have to count currency. You have to count the amount of money someone gave you. And most people are using cards. Most people are sliding their card in or tapping a card. But cash is king. It's still something you have to touch. I don't know exactly something I think about just because that's how I am. But what is the division of transactions that are debit or credit card versus cash? It'd be a good thing to kind of ask if I come in on Tuesday, and I want to get to that point. We have to get someone to help me sit across from me with a cash box, because that's basically the cash register that comes out when it displays that number for what to give back. And here's another thing. There's a third degree. So first degree, second degree, third degree. There's a third degree of complexity where things could really get screwed up, which is, you want to be pleasant. You want to be offering these customers an incredible experience for that guy back there. And if someone wants, say, I got to make up a number, $7.27, 727, and the person wants it not a 5 and 2 ones, but all in ones, all 7s in ones, why not do it for the person so that when they're going on Yelp, they say, this cashier had no problem with it. He was able to adroitly or dexterously, retard with high vocabulary, I'm sorry about that, do it good for him. And some people would just, I can't do that, you're going to get what you're going to get. No, of course you do that for the person. So they put good stuff on Yelp. And that's where it's like, then all of a sudden the person's asking for different, what you call denominations. Speaking of religion, they want different denominations. So you really have to understand the money. You've got a $2 bill, but we don't touch it. There's a Susan B. Anthony coin that's, I don't know, is it a 75-cent coin? Is it $1? Is there a 75-cent coin? But you don't touch those. So you have to know all these things, and then boom, 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 boom. And the final thing I want to say, and thank you for helping me. If you do, give me a call. You've got my phone number. It's right down there. My phone number, my email address, it's all online. Who would dream it? That's how easy it is. See if you can help me. And I want to talk about Occam's razor also, because people in the humanities use that term very loosely. But I want to touch the numbers, because when you're using a term like that, you can say something like, okay, you can just say Occam's razor to any argument, and then say it's unconscionable, like I have to make this thing up. Well, it's not made up, it's the truth. What's it called? Diaspora or diffusion over concentration. Well, yeah, to avoid being in a concentration camp, and that's a thing you have to start to think about in order to be paid more distinct. But you're in a concentration camp, like homeless shelter, if they don't value less ability higher. And I suck. So, there you go. That's unconscionable. If it starts to become like Plato, all the Plato, all the dialogues of Plato, and it's like, wait a minute, you have to go watch, read everything. That means he's nuts and it's unconscionable. No, not exactly. But you could say, Occam's razor. But if we just touch the money, like I said, you got to stop building one of those ships in the shipyard down there, because that's $3.2 billion. And if you just give that money to me, that's a much better way to keep me contained. I think it's a much more humane kind of containment than what I'm going through now. So let's look at money, because we might be able to get that if we touch the numbers instead of worrying about mincing things the way you want it minced, because you don't want to give me $3.2 billion. But in the meantime, help me count some money.